In this PowerPoint, we will be discussing conditioned reinforcers, specifically referring to how you can pair with your clients. This is task list item C3. It is important to note that this training program is based on the RBT task list and is designed to meet the 40-hour training requirement for RBT certification. The program is offered independent of the BACB. In this PowerPoint, we will be discussing the following topics. First, we will start by doing a quick review of conditioned reinforcers. Next, we will discuss how a technician can pair with their clients. And finally, we will provide a list of the articles and websites we referenced to make this PowerPoint. First, we will start by discussing conditioned reinforcers. A conditioned reinforcer is defined as a stimulus that is a reinforcer because it has been previously paired with other reinforcers in the past. For a stimulus to become a conditioned reinforcer, the individual must have a history of that stimulus being paired with other reinforcers. Some examples include stickers and money. To find stickers and money as reinforcers, one must have a behavioral history where stickers were paired with smiles or approval from your teacher, for example, or money was paired with the opportunity to buy or access items, food, activities, and so on. The pairing procedure is used to describe the process of a neutral stimulus being converted into a conditioned reinforcer. In this procedure, the neutral stimulus is presented directly before the conditioned or unconditioned reinforcer that it is being paired with. With repeated pairings, the neutral stimulus will acquire the reinforcing properties of the stimulus it has been paired with. This means that the once neutral stimulus will now function as a reinforcer. Because we will later focus on how technicians can pair themselves with reinforcers, I am going to discuss how attention becomes a conditioned reinforcer through the pairing procedure. First, attention, which is the neutral stimulus, is presented. Following the presentation of attention, other reinforcers are presented, such as milk or food. As a baby, you cannot access these stimuli without receiving some form of attention, such as your parents approaching the crib you are in or making eye contact with you. In this example, the milk and food are unconditioned reinforcers, because finding food reinforcing is a result of our evolutionary history as humans. We cannot survive without these stimuli. An important aspect of the pairing procedure is that the absence of the neutral stimulus should also result in the absence of the conditioned or unconditioned reinforcer. In this example, the absence of attention would also be paired with the absence of access to the listed reinforcers. As mentioned previously, you cannot access these reinforcers without first receiving attention. Therefore, if attention consistently precedes access to these reinforcers, and if these reinforcers are consistently withheld in the absence of attention, then attention should acquire reinforcing properties. Now that we have reviewed conditioned reinforcers, we are going to discuss pairing with clients. Pairing refers to the process of pairing oneself with reinforcers. This pairing process allows the technician to become a conditioned reinforcer. Pairing is a crucial aspect of providing services. With successful pairing, the client will be more likely to complete activities and tasks that the technician presents. If inadequate pairing occurs, such as the technician not spending enough time pairing or the technician failing to pair with the correct reinforcers, then services will be affected. If the technician is not paired with reinforcers, they are likely to be paired with aversive stimuli, such as demands and hard tasks. Therefore, spending adequate time pairing and ensuring that you are engaging in behaviors that will lead to you becoming a conditioned reinforcer is very important. The following is how a technician becomes a conditioned reinforcer through the pairing procedure. First, the neutral stimulus, which is the site of the technician, is presented. Then the conditioned and unconditioned reinforcers, such as toys, edibles, and activities, are presented. The absence of the technician is also paired with the absence of access to these items, because during a session, the client should not be accessing these reinforcers in the absence of the technician. When trying to pair with your client, it is important to follow the following steps. First, you should review information about your client. Next, you should pair yourself with reinforcers. Eventually, you should begin fading in demands. And finally, you will begin mixing both demands and pairing while conducting sessions. We will discuss these steps more in depth in the next slides. First, we will discuss how one can review information about their client before starting the pairing process. A behavior profile is a document that describes important information that pertains to your client. It is common for these profiles to include information regarding their independence during self-care routines, such as bathroom and eating. Additionally, it often discusses the reinforcers the client has, as well as mastered skills and problem behaviors. If the client is new to the center, the information might be based off of initial assessment or parent report. Additionally, behavior profiles can be based on the behavior technicians and/or BCBA's experiences with the client while they have received services. If your client does have a behavior profile, it is very important to use it to your advantage, as it has detailed information about your client and can be very beneficial for pairing. For starters, if the client's preferences and reinforcers are listed, it can give you an idea of how you can begin the pairing process. If it discusses current skills and deficits, it can help you to know what sort of demands you can start with when trying to fade in demands. As we will discuss later, you do not want to jump to difficult demands when first working with a client. Instead, presenting demands that the client has experience with and often complies with is best. Here is an example of a behavior profile. As you can see, it lists things such as reinforcers, mastered skills, and problem behaviors. In the highlighted section, you can see that the behavior profile has information pertaining to the client's reinforcers. It lists out the different edible, tangible, and social reinforcers that the client enjoys. By looking at this information, the behavior technician could come to their first session with a few stuffed animals or toy cars, for example. Using this information to your advantage is a good way to begin building rapport with your client. Once you have information about your client, you can start the initial pairing process. The following is a list of things one should consider doing when trying to pair. We will discuss each of these more in depth in future slides. You should follow the client's interest, while still presenting new toys and edibles. You also should make activities more fun and reinforce appropriate behaviors. You should start by following the client's interest. For example, if the client immediately walks over to the car ramps, you can go with them and base how you play off their interest in the car ramp. However, it is also important to ensure you are introducing them to new activities and/or items. Something as simple as showing them how to put two cars on the ramp at the same time can make the activity more fun and interesting for them. By engaging in activities that they already enjoy and introducing them to new activities and items, you can increase the likelihood of pairing occurring. It is very important to ensure that your involvement in an activity makes it more fun. For example, if stuffed animals are reinforcers for your client, you should think about ways where your presence could make these stuffed animals even more fun and reinforcing. For example, the technician making animal noises that correspond to the stuffed animal they are playing with, or even bouncing the stuffed animal up and down and using it to tickle the client, could make the activity more fun. This way, the reinforcer becomes even more reinforcing because of your presence. Another example would be music. Music is a common reinforcer for individuals, and it is easy to rely solely on its automatic stimulation as a reinforcer. To assist you in pairing, you can make music more fun by doing silly dances or singing along to the song. Your client may find it more enjoyable to dance with you while music is playing than they would to just sit down by themselves while music is playing. Therefore, again, your presence is making the activity more reinforcing. While attempting to do this, it is important to remember to avoid taking the fun out of the item. As you are trying out different methods for pairing, ensure that you are paying attention to how your client reacts. If it appears that you're bouncing their stuffed animal up and down as aversive or non-preferred, you should avoid engaging in this behavior while trying to pair. It is also very important to provide reinforcers whenever the client engages in appropriate behavior. Some examples include the client making eye contact with you, the client allowing you to or even asking you to play with their toys, the client demanding for items, and so on. Providing extra reinforcement for these behaviors will increase the likelihood that the client will continue to engage with you in the future. It also can help increase the likelihood of them engaging in other social behaviors. The following is a question that you should write down in your homework packet. Because videos have automatic auditory or visual stimulation, the technician does not have to worry about making them more reinforcing. A, true. B, false. I will give you guys a moment to review the question and determine what answer you think is correct. The correct answer is B, false. As mentioned previously, you should always be trying to make activities more fun. Even though watching videos can be reinforcing independently, it is still important to attempt to make them more reinforcing because you are there. For example, you could try to sing along with the video and prompt the child to sing along with the video. If they are vocal and see that you are singing along with the song, this could prompt them to do the same. Singing with the video and with you can make the activity more reinforcing. Additionally, you could imitate behaviors that are seen in the video. If you're watching a video of a child's song, such as the wheels on the bus, you imitating the actions the cartoons are doing could prompt your child to engage with you and imitate as well. Again, this can make the activity more fun because of your presence. The following is a list of things to avoid when trying to pair with a client. You should avoid presenting demands, removing toys, reinforcing inappropriate behaviors, forcing the client to engage with you, and assuming what your client prefers or enjoys. It is crucial to avoid presenting demands while attempting to pair. You want to pair yourself with reinforcers and not demands. If demands are placed, they should be ones that are very easy and the child is likely to engage in. You should wait to begin presenting demands until the initial pairing process has taken place. By gradually introducing demands, you will prevent yourself from being paired aversively. Alike to avoiding presenting demands, it is also important to avoid removing toys. If a client is engaging with a toy, it is not the best idea to take a toy out of their hand while trying to pair with them. Instead, you can engage with the toy as they are holding it, or present new toys that can be used with the original toy. Exceptions to this rule include if the client is engaging with a dangerous or potentially harmful item. If it is necessary to block access to or remove something from your client, then, if possible, have another technician or your supervisor remove the toys or block access. This will prevent you from being paired aversively. The technicians are responsible for implementing procedures with the clients. Therefore, it is important that they always remain a conditioned reinforcer. The BCBA or other techs may not have to interact with the client as much. Therefore, them having more instances of aversive pairing will not affect services. It is also important to avoid reinforcing inappropriate behavior, such as the client engaging in escape-maintain behavior. As we have discussed, it is possible that something you do while trying to pair can result in your client engaging in inappropriate behavior, such as elopement, flopping, screaming, and so on. If these instances occur, you should never deliver a reinforcer as a way of dealing with the behavior. Instead, reinforcers should be contingent on the client engaging appropriately with you. When you first meet the client, non-contingent reinforcement may be a good method to begin the pairing process. However, as you spend more time with the client, delivering reinforcers contingent on appropriate behavior is very important, as this increases the likelihood that your client will continue to have appropriate social interactions rather than them engaging in escape-maintained behaviors. You should never force a client to engage with you. For example, if a client is walking in one direction, you should not step in front of them to prevent them from being able to continue walking just so that they can engage with you. Instead, increase the likelihood of them attending to you by presenting new toys and interacting naturally. If the client continues to avoid engaging with you, take a gradual approach where you slowly increase the amount of interaction you and the client have. We will discuss this method further in a few slides. Finally, it is important to avoid assuming you know what your client prefers. Despite it being common for children to enjoy tickles or cuddles, not every child will find these stimuli or activities reinforcing. Some may even find them to be aversive. Therefore, despite having viewpoints about what you think a child will enjoy, you need to make sure that you're basing the pairing process off of your specific client. If their behavior profile states that they often engage in problem behavior when someone tickles them, it is not a good idea to start pairing by trying to tickle them. Additionally, if their behavior profile does not state this information, but the client appears uncomfortable or backs away from you when you are engaging in these types of behaviors, then try a different approach. Finally, we will discuss how you can begin to fade in demands once the initial pairing process has ended. Once successful pairing has taken place, you should begin to fade in demands. As mentioned previously, you should start with easy, mastered skills that are presented infrequently. The beginning of this process may involve mostly pairing with a few easy demands interspersed throughout the session. Eventually, you will want to build up to both more difficult demands and more frequent demands. Doing this in a gradual, systematic manner will ensure that the technician can continue to be a conditioned reinforcer while also having instructional control. While you are building up instructional control and time spent engaging in instructional activities, it is important to remember that pairing has not ended. Even if you paired well the first week of working with the client, that does not mean that pairing is over. You should consistently be pairing with your client and ensuring that you remain a conditioned reinforcer. This can be done by continuing to make toys and activities more fun simply because you are a part of them. During the pairing process, you should have been able to gain an understanding of what your client enjoys and does not enjoy. While working with your client, you should use this information to continue making activities and toys more fun. A critical aspect to continued pairing is to have control over the tangibles and edibles that your client prefers. During sessions, your client should be receiving reinforcement directly from you. Allowing them to have free access to all preferred items throughout the session will prevent them from attending to you. The following example shows how the technician's presence can alter behavior. The antecedent is that the client has no potato chip, so they ask for a potato chip. If they do so in the presence of their technician, they will receive a potato chip. But if they do so in the absence of their technician, they will not get a potato chip. The fact that the client can only gain access to the reinforcer if their technician is present makes their technician's presence reinforcing. Therefore, it is important to ensure that your client is receiving reinforcers directly from you while running sessions. The more reinforcers that they access from you, the more reinforcing interacting with you will be. In addition to what we have already discussed, here are some other considerations you should think about when pairing. Not all clients will have perfect social skills. It is likely that you will have to build up on play and social skills with some of your clients. You may have one client that loves social engagement and another client who avoids it with all peers and adults. Because of this, you must be careful with how you pair. This might involve fading in different aspects of your presence. For starters, you may have to gradually increase your presence. For example, You might start by simply sitting in the same room as your client and gradually decreasing distance between you and your client until you are in the same area, and so on. You also might have to gradually increase the amount of touch your client tolerates. This can refer to both you touching your client's toys or prompting them through activities. If you are working with a client who engages in problem behavior when you touch their toys, you might start by providing a reinforcer if your client continues to play appropriately when you place your hand on the table. You could then gradually decrease the distance between the toy and your hand, while consistently providing reinforcement for your client engaging in appropriate play as your hand is coming closer and closer to the toy that they are playing with. You also might have to gradually fade in your voice. Some clients may find loud noises or voices aversive. Because of this, you might have to start by talking softly and using short sentences. You can gradually increase to a normal speaking level and to longer statements if needed.